So people have been sharing this infographic. Periodically, it goes viral. And it's just shared by a lot of people. Muslim college students, what we need to know. Premarital sex. Males, 57% of Muslim males, college age, have engaged in zina. 48%, so half of Muslim college girls are committing zina, using drugs, marijuana, doing gambling. 36%, 1/3. Tobacco use, alcohol use. 50% of Muslim girls in college age between 18 and 24 are drinking. So this infographic was created by the Family and Youth Institute, and every now and then people post it and they say, "Oh, we have a real problem, guys. This is a real problem. Look, this is what is happening to our youth. This is a disaster." And I know that people are sharing it with good intentions. So I'm not criticizing that. But did you stop to think that maybe these numbers are off? Like, I'm not trying to say that there's no Muslim youth engages in these behaviors. That's not what I'm saying. But is it really 50%? 50%? Like, that is the problem with that. It makes it seem like Muslims are worse than non-Muslims. Like, being Muslim and following Islam has done nothing to prevent Muslims from engaging in zina and drinking and all kinds of, and doing drugs. Do you think that that's the case? You think Islam and religiosity has no impact, no effect? That's the problem with this kind of infographic and spreading it. So that's why we need to be a little bit more cautious, a little bit more, ask a few more questions before we just blast this off in order to reaffirm a kind of, how do you call it? Like an inferiority complex. Like, yeah, Muslims, we're just as bad as everyone else. Our community is just as bad and destroyed and corrupt as everyone else. That's a wrong mentality. That's a wrong mentality. First of all, because it's demoralizing. It's disenchanting. That's problem number one. Problem number two is that it's false. It's not even true, because every research study, when you look at the Muslim community in different countries and their involvement in premarital sex, in drug use, in all of these types of behavior like gambling, all the studies show that Muslims are much lower than the general population. Whether the general population is Christian or atheist or secular, it doesn't matter. Muslims are at a lower level. That's what all the studies show. So this study this infographic from Family Youth Institute, what's really going on here? Like, really, are Muslim college students in the US and Canada bucking all other trends? Does this really make sense? Does it pass the smell test, basically? And it doesn't. And this goes back, if you go, one of the earlier episodes that we had on Haqiqatjou was looking at the fraud of this Sheikha, Dr. Sheikha Rania Awad, if you recall, and how she was putting out research and data that Muslims commit suicide, or unaliving yourself, I should say, for YouTube, unaliving themselves at twice the rate of non-Muslims. Even atheists, Muslims are unaliving themselves at twice the rate. And we broke down that research and we found out that it's just a bunch of lies, that she is just fraudulently gaming the data, fudging the numbers in order to put out this statistic, in order for her own organization to raise money and get money for herself. And we went through that whole scandal of Rania Awad. So this is the same exact thing. This is the same exact thing. It's the manipulation of numbers and statistics in order to push a narrative. And the narrative that's being pushed by Family and Youth Institute, which is headed by these liberal feminists, by a bunch of feminists are running this organization, that, we have a problem. This is the reality. Like, Muslims have a problem with sex, and they have a problem, like, they're doing all of this behavior, and you think that the Muslims are not doing this. Yeah, they're doing it. So we need to educate them. We need to educate them, not shame them. Not shame them, of course. Shaming is wrong. We can't be judgmental. We have to educate them. So allow our counselors, our licensed professionals, to come to your community to teach you about these topics and what is safe about, being active. How is it safe, and how can we make sure not to shame anyone? We need not your imam. Your imam, he's just a mullah. He doesn't understand. He is not licensed. He's not a licensed social worker or a licensed counselor. We need our experts, our professionals, to come to your mosque. And actually, you need to give our licensed professionals an official position at your mosque, so that any kind of issue dealing with anything related to women or sexuality or marriage or divorce, the imam is not licensed to take care of that. You need to have our professional. That's the sunnah, actually. Professionals. This is how they do it. They use statistics in order to gain control of masajid and to take authority away from imams and conservative religious Muslims. This is how they do it. They shock you. And this is also like norm formation, and we talked about this in another episode as well. Like, you use statistics to change people's understanding of what's the norm. When you put statistics like this, 50% are committing zina of our youth, okay, that becomes the norm. And then your expectations change about what you hold yourself to, or what you hold your children to, or what you hold your community members to. So this is an attack on what is considered normal within the Muslim community. And it's for the purpose of liberalization, pushing feminism, pushing these Muslim psychologists and Muslim mental health professionals to take control over Muslim institutions in the U.S. and eventually in Muslim communities around the world. So this is the problem. But is the data actually correct? Is the data actually correct? And the answer is no. The data is not correct, and I'll prove that. So here is Family and Youth Institute. This is their page. This is like their board members, actually. Their own pictures are on this. Premarital sex among Muslim youth. So they have these infographics. Here's another one. And it says, again, there's that 54% of American Muslim college students engaged in zina. No statistical significance between males and females. That's what the fine print says. And then 67% of Canadian and U.S. Muslims engaged in zina. And this is like between ages 18 and 24. That's the fine print. And the remaining 50% considered committing zina. Okay, so, and then see, this is what students are receiving their sex education from public school and mosque. So we need to change that. We need to have our people come in there into your mosques. Give us a lot of money. Give us millions and millions of dollars of funding so that we can address this problem. That's the playbook. That's exactly Rania Awad's playbook. There's a huge problem with Muslims unaliving themselves at twice the rate of atheists. Give me millions of dollars and I'll solve the problem. I'll educate the imams. This is a very clear grift. But these people are protected by who? Compassionate imams. All the Dawah Mafia. These are the partners of the Dawah Mafia. And this is how they operate. So people like Dalia Mugahed, people like ISPU, people like Family Youth Institute, all of these guys, Rania Awad, it's the same grift that they're running. So then you go, the resources available. Oh, thank God you have resources that that can help this issue. But look at the data. Where's the data coming from? It's primarily these two papers. that focus on Muslims. Prevalence of risk behaviors among U.S. Muslim college students. And then this article, or this research paper by Sobia Ali Faisal in 2014. So let's look at these two papers and see, does the data hold up? Is it true? 50%, 54%, and 67% in Canada. Okay, hopefully, like, you're suspicious now. Like, this, it doesn't really add up. Like, really? Do you know any Muslim youth? Do you know any Muslim youth? I do, and if anything, they're desperately trying to get married. And the thing is, getting married should be easier, obviously, but the idea that, oh, they're not getting married, therefore they're falling into zina, that's not happening. Like, these are incels. There's an incel problem because even amongst non-Muslims, these college males are not able to get with anyone. They're all virgins, actually. Maybe in the age of our parents, or maybe 20 years ago, or even 15 years ago, this was an issue where the majority of college males are engaged in premarital sex. No longer the case. That hasn't been the case for a long time. Now we have an incel problem where the non-Muslims, they're fine with zina. They just aren't able to have it. They're not able to do zina, even though they're seeking it. The vast majority, only the top 10%, the Chads, are doing zina. Everyone else, 90%, 80%, they don't have any opportunity. Okay, so let's go to the studies. And here's the first study that was mentioned. And you see one of the authors, Samira Ahmed, she's also the head of the Family Youth Institute. So she's citing her own research. Prevalence of risk behaviors among U.S. Muslim college students, the Journal of Muslim Mental Health. So this is like basically their own organization, I bet, that's publishing their own research. So it's questionable whether this meets any like legitimate peer review standards. But put that aside. So here's the key part without reading the whole thing. So basically there are these phone surveys that are done. The U.S. National College Survey in 2001 assessed risk behavior. So this is data that's coming not from them. They haven't done the actual surveying. It's another organization that has done the survey. And they surveyed 10,401 students. And out of that, the 10,401, 135 reported they were raised in Muslim families. So 1%, 1.3%. That's it. That's the data. 135 respondents. We don't know who they are. These are just people who they report that they're raised in Muslim families. That's it. Now, what does that mean? Like, you're raised in a Muslim family. Does that mean like you have an Arab dad? Or does it mean like your parents were teaching you Islam, or put you in Islamic school, or you know how to pray, or what really is the religious profile of these 135? Just 1.3%. By the way, when it comes to Americans, there's 3%. The standard estimate is that 3% of the U.S. is Muslim. So this is less than half of that. So why are Muslims in this survey already so underrepresented? They're underrepresented. And when it comes to Muslims going to college, there should be an overrepresentation of Muslims going to college, because Muslims have more of an emphasis on college education than just the baseline American population. So this 135 is already a weird number. That doesn't seem to be representative of the actual Muslim community in the U.S. But putting that aside, it's such a small number, 135 people, that we know nothing about. And these researchers know nothing about, because there's only certain questions that were answered. Everything else is anonymous about these people. So 135 were raised in Muslim families, and that's what they're basing the drug usage on, the zina rate, the gambling rate. It's just based on 135 people who answered a phone call in 2001 by some other national survey. And they're taking that and they're basing their conclusions about the entire Muslim community based off of that. So this is trash. This is complete trash. And then they basically self-publish it in their own journal. And then it's, the studies show that over 50% are engaged in zina, and a third of Muslim youth are gambling, and 50% of Muslim girls are drinking alcohol. So again, I'm not denying that there are, Muslim youth aren't engaged in problematic behaviors. But what is the solution to those behaviors? How can they be addressed? You get a very different approach to solve those problems when you have accurate numbers from trustworthy sources, not these liberals and feminists who have clearly an ulterior motive, and they have this conflict of interest because they're selling the solution. They're telling you the problem and they're selling you the solution. And fine, if there was a real problem, okay, then yeah, give me the solution. But the problem is being exaggerated with false numbers. Just like Rania Awad exaggerates the unaliving rate of Muslims, and then she's selling you the solution. This is unethical, to say the least. It's fraud. It's legitimately fraud. So then let's go to the other paper that their infographic was based off of. Crossing Sexual Barriers, the Influence of Background Factors and Personal Attitudes on Sexual Guilt and Sexual Anxiety Among Canadian and American Muslim Women and Men, by Sobia Ali Faisal, University of Windsor. Okay, so participants were asked to indicate whether or not they had sexual experience, whether or not they had engaged in intercourse. More than half of the participants reported being sexually experienced and had engaged in intercourse. Of those who had engaged, slightly more than 2/3 had done so before marriage. Among those who had not engaged before marriage, half had thought about doing so. When examined by gender, similarities in behaviors and differences in cognitions were found. Just more than 2/3 of the women and men who had sex had done so before marriage. However, among those who had not had sex before marriage, almost 2/3 of men had thought about doing so, compared to fewer than half of the women. And this is the chart that summarizes the data. So, that's where the numbers are coming from. This dissertation research, and 67% of the ones who had been experienced, they had done zina. 67%. So, okay, well, we have a problem, guys. This is a huge issue. This is a huge issue with the community, and we need to get Family and Youth Institute and all of these counselors to come and teach us. What are we doing wrong? What are we doing wrong? Because the imam goes on the minbar and he says that don't do zina, and he recites certain verses of the Quran and he recites certain hadith, but clearly that's not having any impact. That's not being effective. We have this massive tidal wave of zina hitting the community. Yeah, do you know the problem? Because you didn't have the counselors and the feminists. You just had a shame approach. You're shaming people. Shaming is wrong. We have to be non-judgmental and educate everyone with cuddles and lollipops. Okay, that's pretty much what they say. So then, to see that how much of a fraud this dissertation is, and it's bringing shame on the reputation of the University of Windsor that trash like this stood up to scrutiny, we just have to go to the procedures section. Okay, this 67%, who's the 67% committing zina? Okay, look at this. Tell me if you're not shocked by this brazen fraud. Participants were recruited across Canada and the US using a variety of methods. First, the snowballing technique was used where Muslim family members, friends, and acquaintances of the researcher were asked to complete the questionnaire as well as to pass the questionnaire along to their Muslim family members, friends, and acquaintances. Okay, so this is not like some double-blind study, or there's not random sampling or any kind of statistical best practices. She's asking her friends. She's asking her friends about what they're doing in the bedroom. Her friends and her families. How is this non-biased? This was done by word of mouth, emails, and Facebook. Second, the study was also advertised on relevant Facebook groups with an informative message and link to the study. Third, groups and organizations for Muslims across Canada and the US were contacted through email and asked to advertise the study to their respective members. So she's just contacting her friends and on her local Facebook group of friends. And she's asking them to fill out the survey. So advertise to your friends. Finally, online sites aimed at Muslims, namely blogs, were contacted through email and asked to advertise the study on their blog sites. Look at Appendix O for all recruitment correspondences sent by the researcher. In the end, most participants were recruited using Facebook. So most of these people are coming from Facebook. Groups that she specifically selected for advertisement. So not just random Muslim groups. Table 4 provides details on participants' reports of how they heard about the study. So again, a very small sample size, but most of them are coming from Facebook, her friends. All data collection was conducted online. So it's just an online survey that people are filling out. This is less statistically significant than the Twitter polls that I do. This is less statistically significant than the Telegram polls that I do. I'm putting polls on Twitter and Telegram. That's more of a representation of the Muslim community than like 200 some, 300 participants that are directly connected, like the personal preference of who she decided to reach out to. Hey, can you fill out this survey? So let's go actually to Appendix O. Where is the Appendix O? Look at all this trash. Look at all this BS. You can publish a dissertation based on just like 300 family friends doing a survey. And then Family and Youth Institute will publish that for you. But like, do you remember there was a Facebook group called Fitna? Like feminists, Fitna, feminist, whatever. But the name of the group was Fitna, and they're hardcore feminists, anti-Islam, but they still consider themselves Muslims. These are the people that she was recruiting for this survey. And these are people who are very open about, yeah, we need to, the shame culture. So what if you have a boyfriend? So what if you're, on OnlyFans? Stop shaming Muslim women. These are the people filling out the survey. So, wow, surprise, surprise, 67% of those people are engaged in zina. Wow, that's really shocking. That's really representative of the Muslim community. That's really representative of the Muslim community, right? No, it's just representative of your friend group. Like your friend group is filled with whores. That's all that it means. Your Facebook groups and your Facebook social circle, they're just prostitutes. That's all that it means. But Family and Youth Institute is gonna put that out. And then this is the researcher. Like this is Sobia Ali Faisal. Like the whole purpose of her research is to say that Muslims are hypocrites. They are engaging in zina, but they want to shame people for engaging in zina. So this is hypocrisy. Like that's the whole point of the research. That's the whole 290, 300 pages of dissertation. That's all it's about, to show that the public perception that Muslims want to spread is that, oh, we are so pious and we don't engage in zina, or we have to make sure women are properly covered. But in reality, they're doing this all behind closed doors. They're hypocrites. That's the whole narrative that she's trying to push. And you have liberal organizations like Family Youth Institute, ISPU, Compassionate Imams who spread this garbage. So here, enough with the clothes shaming of Muslim women. This is the kind of stuff that Sobia is about. And in another place, she's advocating like Muslims being involved in pornography. Like, no problem. Muslim women shouldn't be shamed for being involved in pornography. Muslim women in pornography. Why are you shaming Muslim women? Muslim women can be free. This is the research, objective research that is being shared, you know, and it goes viral, this chart. This is where it's from. This is the source of it. So a little bit more critical thinking, please. A little bit more critical thinking, Muslims. Stop. We need to stop being duped. Like the Fell Forward Again award. Like, that's the meme that's being spread for all the Donald Trump supporters. The pin or the award. Fell Forward Again award. That's the Muslims, unfortunately. Many of these Muslims are falling for it over and over and over and over again. And it's hard for me to understand.